Hi, I'm Chody Shifter, professional racing driver, and when I'm not racing vehicles, I'm usually sitting on the downstairs toilet or in a motorway services on my smart telephone, sifting through ad after ad of interesting vehicles from caringclassic.com. You should try it too. There's many to choose from, and you can even sell them free on classifieds or off of an auction. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Smith & Sniff is sponsored by caringclassic.com. I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. Now, before we go any further, just want to say, Smith & Sniff Live, a live recording of this podcast, on that Live of Things, as we sometimes call it, the fifth one is happening on May the 19th. It's a Friday night. Get your party trousers on.
Pre-internet trousers, preferably.
Pre-internet trousers, because it's in Bristol. You may have seen this mentioned. If you're a patron, you'll know you had first dibs on the tickets. And thank you, because the patrons leapt on it.
They did.
And took about half the tickets. They're now on general sale. There are still, at the time of recording, some left, hoping that by the time this goes live, that's still the case. Otherwise, we're going to look like chumps. But as we speak, there are still some tickets left. Friday the 19th of May, at a place called the Tobacco Factory. It's a theatre in Bristol. And it's going to be...
It's pre-internet, so vaping hasn't been invented yet. So everyone will be smoking, and there won't be any smartphones. Yeah, well,
smoking indoors, I suppose.
Indoor smoking, and smartphones and laptops are strictly forbidden.
I didn't think about this, but because it's a theatre and we're hiring it, so they have to send me these forms to fill in, and one of them is a thing based on the fact that it's geared for doing a play. So there's a bit on the form that says, will there be any of the following happening on stage? And one of the things is smoking.
Oh, great.
Which the small print says you have to get permission from the local council.
Okay.
Because I guess you're technically breaking the law. You're not allowed to smoke. But I guess there's exceptions for, if it's sort of justified by the script.
Theatrical.
I just put no, there's no smoking, no, there'll be no gunshots, no, there's no lasers. But I realised that if we've been true to our belief about well, first of all, we should have lasers.
Stellantis are texting as we speak. Like, what do you mean no lasers? We're not turning up.
but then just every so often you just fire a pistol into the air for no reason at all. But also, we if I thought ahead, we could have just full 90s it by having everybody smoking.
Well, maybe we could fill out a hastily... I mean, I don't even smoke, and neither do you, but maybe we could just do a hastily filled out form.
Yeah, well, you could do... This always annoys me to this day. As an ex-smoker, I always... when you see actors who clearly don't smoke, but they've been required to smoke because they're taking part in, some kind of drama set in the 70s.
I know. And
they're just no good at it. They do that thing where they go and blow out the smoke straight away, which is fair enough. If you don't smoke, inhaling smoke is disgusting. But it's just, I'd almost rather they didn't make the character smoke, or just don't ever put it to your mouth, because that's less noticeable.
Yeah, just hold it.
But where were we? Oh yeah. Anyway, so
trying to promote a live audience podcast, and we're talking about smoking, which is not going to happen. There might be
no smoking.
There might be some dry ice potentially. There might be lasers, but there probably won't be. And
more likely, it'll be you and me in a couple of chairs on a stage. I've asked for a coffee table between us.
Thank you.
It's not a deal breaker, but we'll see if we can get one.
Appreciate that.
And we're going to record a podcast in front of an audience. If you've heard one of our recordings of a live show before, you'll sort of know the deal. It's really just the same as this, except there's a crowd. And then we'll do a Q&A. So it'll be an hour of chat, little break, where we'll mill about and sign things and chat to people and do what we usually do. And then an hour of Q&A with the audience. And then we can all go
Which is
home.
my favourite bit, actually.
Or if there's time, go to the pub.
Well, we've always tried to go to the pub, and we've often failed.
Well, yes.
So that's why I'm going to bring in those words again. I think we should have a pasting table to stage left with some port, some quality vintage port on it, maybe. Oh, by the way, if you hear rustling behind me, you know what it is. It's the tortoises. Yeah. It's still too cold to put them out. The weather's just being an absolute rancid bastard.
Somebody at the Scramble the other Sunday called you out on saying pasting table. I think it was Jim Cameron from Mission Motorsport.
It was. I'm ever so sorry.
Pasting table. And he went, you and pasting tables.
I don't know why.
I suppose.
I don't know why.
Just to wrap up the live show, it is, as I've said, Friday the 19th of May. As we speak, there are tickets available. Show starts at 7:30, so you've got time to come from work, even if you live slightly further away than Bristol. But we'd love to see you there.
I'd love to see you there. I'm just going to move a tortoise. Hang on.
It's not a euphemism. Well, I was going to say, since I've brought it up, that we should talk about the scramble, because we didn't talk about it. The show that went out the day after the scramble, we'd already recorded it because of logistics, and it made me realise that what we need to do is buy one of those little portable recorders, because then we could have recorded like on the ground at the show, and that might have been a nice little change of atmos.
I think we should have bought a local radio transmission lorry as well.
Ooh,
we could have sat in with a coffee.
No, just one of those estate cars with a very large aerial.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Preferably one of those cars that's a sort of early version of a people carrier with a double sliding door setup.
Yes.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
They had, when I first worked at BBC Pebble Mill in Birmingham in 1998, they had, I think their radio cars were Peugeot 405 estates.
Sweet.
But I think, I'm trying to remember this was, no, I'm reading a book about the brain at the moment, and it's fascinating. One of the things that's really interesting is how your memory works, and all the sort of synapses and things, and then how we develop false memories.
Really?
And it's very easy, yeah, and it cites these, there have been scientific studies into this where they've actually been able to convince people of things that never happened. And it's sort of, I suppose, it then, you know, goes into the wider world of sort of things like conspiracy theories. But on a very sort of personal level, they took some subjects and they found out stuff about their lives from their friends and relatives, and then they just talked to them about 3 things that had really happened and 1 thing that hadn't. And then when they saw them the next week, they brought up the thing that hadn't, and they found that people would go, oh gosh, yes, I remember that. Yeah, I was wearing a blue hat. And it's like they'd started adding details to something that never actually happened to them.
Gosh,
so,
can you imagine if you were being questioned to do with a criminal incident? You'd look like an absolute fibber, even though you were innocent.
Well, exactly. It's even happened, funnily enough, it happened to me on the way to the scramble. I got up early doors. In fact, I did that thing we've talked about where I knew I was going to wake up early, so in fact my brain went, right, I might as well get on with this, and I woke up even earlier.
Pre-alarm.
So get on the road.
Yeah.
So I was zooming through the streets of Bath/Bath at 6:45 in the morning, and from a side road ahead of me, this 6-wheeled old-shaped Defender pulled out. It's one of these Foley conversions, you know, Foley up in Essex that do these 6-wheel conversions on old Defenders. And one of these pulled out, V8, I could hear it.
Gosh, I mean,
engine swap as well.
That's 10 to the gallon if you're being careful, isn't it?
Well, particularly because I thought, at this time in the morning, and he's heading out of town, I bet he's going where I'm going. But then I pulled into a garage to get a coffee. I finally caught up with him on the M4, so he's doing motorway miles in
a 6-wheeled Defender.
The friction of the 6 wheels on very chunky tyres alone is going to just drag it down. But sure enough, got to the scramble and later saw it parked up with a load of other Defenders. And I was hoping to catch the owner so I could go, oh, do you live in Bath? But didn't. Then I was talking to somebody I know who lives here and is into cars. And I said, you don't know somebody in town who's got a 6-wheel Defender, do you? And he went, no, but I've seen it around. Is it white? And I went, no, it's silver. And then I suddenly thought, is it? I can picture the car. It's got 6 wheels and it's a Defender. But my brain hasn't bothered to record the colour accurately, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's silver, but it could be white. Do you know what I mean?
I think my memories.
Been a crime.
Yeah. There'd been a crime.
I can't remember why I'm bringing this up now.
Do you know what? Talking of crime, I've been meaning to mention this for the last probably 3 podcasts. When I've got an hour to spare late in the evening and I don't quite want to go to bed yet and I'm not doing work anymore, what do you think I've been doing?
Well,
keep this above board.
Because it's you, I'm going to say you've been endlessly combing YouTube videos for, I don't know, the Proclaimers performing acoustic versions of 500 Miles on Latvian telly.
No, I found on Amazon Prime, they've got the entire first series of Miami Vice up there, FOC.
Oh, yes.
And I never watched Miami Vice because I was too young for it. So I was aware of it, and I knew the music, and I knew about the fashion and the Ferraris. And I just thought, I'm going to watch the start of all. I'll watch the pilot episode of Miami Vice. And I'm just watching the whole series now. And they're about an hour long each. Do you know what? It's good. And the acting stands.
Oh.
I think the acting stands. It's not as 80s bad acting as a lot of other stuff. Certainly not as bad as a lot of 80s films were. And I'm really into it. Is it
gritty? Is it quite gritty in places?
It is quite gritty. And it also, I realised that I wasn't sure of before, that actually Sonny Crockett, a.k.a. Don Johnson, he's actually quite an emotional guy. You know, he's going through divorce and he's trying to piece his life together as a young father living a wild life of getting shot at every day and trying to be some sort of drug lord. It's actually really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Although I have written down, you have to excuse the very wobbly helicopter shots in the opening sequences. It looks like someone's just dug the camera operator in the ribs when he's hanging out of the helicopter. It's just not quite right, and
it's just moments away from inventing the gimbal, but just too late to catch.
That's right.
Production of Miami Vice.
And then there's like the camera scrolls down, pans down a line of Rolls Royces that are outside the foyer of an expensive hotel, and they're mostly 50s Rolls, apart from one of them, which is a Camargue.
Oh,
yeah. So there's a Camargue in the opening credits, and the other thing I was saying,
I've got a terrible want-on for a Camargue, and yet, you know, I used to think they were awful, and to the extent I put them in my crap cars book, and I'm sure they are awful, but I look at them now and go, could get on with that.
For me, Camargue is one of those cars which I'd like, but not in standard form. I'd ruffle some feathers. It would have to be LS swapped. I'm not interested in the Rolls-Royce engine. It'll be cack. I'm sorry, but it will be. And the brakes will be absolute cack, and the suspension will be hideous.
Sure. Yeah.
The suspension will just be made out of old chewing gum.
No, I think it's all fixable. And I would go not LS swap. I would try and keep it a bit more purist, but maybe Arnage.
Ooh.
You know, the turbocharged. Example of the same engine.
That's not a bad shout. Yeah, I mean, you could get an accident damaged Silver Serif or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And
I suppose
just like engines, transmission, drivetrain swap it. I do like a Camargue.
What kind of accident has a Silver Serif had in this day and age? I mean, most likely just reversed into something.
I was going to say
who's driving?
That's a doddery owner who's forgotten that it's still in D, and they've got out the car and their moccasin has pressed the throttle, and because it's so torquey, it's just demolished everything at 15 miles an hour.
It's gone through the bloody fountain again.
Exactly, it'll just rip through like marble walls and things, and just this horrible slow accident.
Well, because I would say Serif now surely is either really quite old and moneyed and have had it since new, or it's a bit scrap dealer.
You just don't see them. I mean, you just don't see a Serif.
Really don't, do you?
You see the Bentleys of that era, the ones that we were driving the other week, the Arnages, but you don't see the Silver Serif.
So back to Miami Vice, because this is the thing, talking about memory, it's interesting you say you didn't watch it at the time, because I'm the same. I don't think I watched it at the time, and yet I sort of have this virtual memory of that show. I think I know about it, and I think I've seen it, and yet I'm now wondering if I've ever seen a full episode of it.
Well, that's kind of why I'm doing this journey out of pure. But I mean, I know there's some cool car-related material in it, but and the fashions are brilliant. I mean, I mean, you could wear some of that shit now. You could if you're in your 20s and you were sort of like a bit of a Londoner or a bit Parisian or something. You could probably carry it. But
how much linen?
Like an incredible amount of linen, and like so much. And It's the combination of the espadrille and the gun holster. These two things don't normally live together, or you don't see them together. But in Miami Vice, you do.
Well, trying to chase a baddie wearing espadrilles.
That'd be awful. You'd shatter your ankles. Jumping off a wall.
It brings me back to that idea I've talked about before, flip-flop cops. There were some tough, uncompromising, maybe New York police officers, but they wear flip-flops, so they're absolutely shit at running after baddies and really bad at driving after them as well.
What about Tubbs and Crocs? So Tubbs wears espadrilles, but Crockett's like, no, I'm going Crocs.
Hang on, Tubbs was the character from League of Gentlemen as well. That's a very different show.
Very different.
Tubbs from League of Gentlemen, and Crocs is a man who militantly wears
all year
breathable,
round
hospital orderly shoes, no matter what.
He's all year round shorts guy, as we've probably said before. Yeah. He's all year round shorts guy, and he's probably got Old Guys Rule T-shirt as well. You know what? I really enjoy. I'm enjoying Miami Vice. It's like a little bit of a treat for me. Cheeky little glass of Malbec and an hour long. It is about an hour long episode. That's really good.
Now, didn't they have some really amazing guest stars in it as well?
Yeah. Well, in the first series, a very young Bruce Willis is in it.
Oh,
as a drug dealer who's quite aggressive.
Miami Vice guest stars. Did we talk about this before?
I don't know.
There's a Fanapedia for Miami Vice.
I don't like that word. It sounds a bit weird. Fanapedia,
it does sound a bit weird, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like a Wikipedia, but it's not. It's something. So series 1. God, there's a lot. Oh yeah, Bruce Willis played Tony Amato, arms dealer.
That's right. He is a dodgy arms dealer.
That's the most famous name I can see on here. Oh, Glenn Frey out of the Eagles. Bloody hell.
Well,
Pam Grier.
Well, Glenn. He wrote and sang one of the songs that's sort of synonymous with Miami Vice. You belong to the
shitting
city.
Heck. Guess who? Series 2. You haven't started Series 2 yet, have you?
No, I don't think I have, no.
You are in for a treat, my friend, because guest stars, according to this, include Gene Simmons.
Oh, wow.
Playing Newton Windsor Blade, who's a drug dealer.
Newton Windsor Blade?
Newton Windsor Blade, which sounds like, it's like, well, the problem with these Elvises is that they need a Newton Windsor Blade, otherwise the screen is just opaque. It's awful. Penn Jillette out of Penn and Teller.
Really?
He's in it. Pam Grier's back. Eartha Kitt.
Wow.
The Power Station, which is, like Duran Duran with the drums turned up, they appear as themselves. Little Richard's in it. Miles Davis, Frankie Valli, Nathan Lane, Dean Stockwell off of Quantum Leap, amongst other things. He's in it.
Yes.
Iman's in it as a prostitute.
Oh, that's just brilliant. I'm sure Bowie loved that.
Shitting heck. Phil Collins plays Phil Mayhew, a conman / game show host.
Oh, bloody hell, I didn't know that. I do. There's a lot of, as you'd imagine, because of the nature of Miami Vice, a lot of club scenes.
Yes.
Them rendezvousing in clubs, and they're sort of staking out a dodgy person in a club, and while they've got a wire, they're tapped with a wire. And the club scenes are interesting because there are bands playing, and they're often playing music that doesn't belong to them, so doing covers. One of them, I was going to take a screenshot of it for you because it was like, who chose the wardrobe for this band? I mean, it's almost like they were trying to embarrass them. It was just as ridiculous. Just looks like red bin liners, and they're all wearing fishing hats. It's like, and they're doing synchronized dancing with woodwind instruments, and it's like, this is not working. It's awful. But,
that reminds me. I meant to send you a clip earlier in the week. For some reason, I was watching this excerpt of the Graham Norton show from a few years ago with Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Oh, amazing.
And he's telling the story about when Prince came to see him to be outfitted for a movie, I think, and then there was a misunderstanding and Prince stormed off. But what distracted me about this and why I wanted to send it to you is because Jean-Paul Gaultier is basically dressed as a coach driver.
Oh.
He's just finished his shift.
Oh, is he short sleeve white shirt guy?
Well, you can't see. He's got a white shirt with a black tie that he's slightly sort of loose, and then he's wearing this absolute like covered market leather jacket. It's just you just go, aren't you supposed to be one of the world's most renowned fashion designers? And he just looks like he's gone. Right, I've done the London to Sheffield run, so I'm off to the pub now. Thanks very much. It's bizarre. But back to series 2 of Miami Vice, because the guest stars get better. Jan Hammer is in it as himself, playing a musician at a wedding.
Of course he is.
Leonard Cohen is in it as an Interpol agent, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa plays a drug lord.
Of course, he'd be a good drug lord too.
He would be a good drug lord. He's called Mario Fuente, the character. Michael Bay is in it as a henchman.
Oh.
Presumably an exploding henchman, I don't know. But and Lee Iacocca, the man who saved Chrysler and all that and invented the Mustang, or
yes.
he claims.
Yes.
He's in it. He's in it as an uncredited parks commissioner.
Uncredited?
I think anyone who was famous for whatever, if they happened to be in Miami, I reckon they just went, just come and be in our show. It'd be fun.
The thing I like about Miami Vice is, or that I found especially interesting, is the theme tune changed. So I think the first 3 episodes, the theme tune is not quite the same. It's like a variation.
Oh.
So I think it was I think Jan Hammer must have perfected it. But I'm going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons and say I don't think the Miami Vice theme tune is very good at all. I think it's just not. It's not the A-Team and it's not Knight Rider.
All right. But it's got. I mean,
but Crockett's theme,
from a sort of
different story.
Crockett's theme, great.
Crockett's theme is the song.
I don't want to sound too muso nerd about it, but what's good about the Miami Vice theme, I think, is the drums.
It's got incredible. I think it's got multiple layers of drums, but it's also got. It starts, you might remember, with a helicopter shot going over the water, very low. It does look like the helicopter's actually going to crash land, and then it kind of cuts into somebody windsurfing and leaning down really low and dipping their long hair into the sea and then whipping it back. Brilliant. So aspirational.
Aspirational.
So aspirational. But yeah, so I highly recommend it. And yes, of course, the Ferrari that isn't a Ferrari. I haven't got onto the Testicle Rossi yet, so we're still on the black faux.
The faux Daytona, the Daytona.
The Daytona, yeah, which is cool because I mean it gets rinsed pretty hard, and ends up in people's front gardens and all sorts. Where they
it's constantly like understeering off an ornamental hedge.
Do you know what it is? Is like because of course there is a mobile phone in that car, or is it a mobile phone or is it a very long range sort of police radio, which is a huge thing. But whenever they pull over to sort of like sneak across and look down the cliff at, I don't know, an enemy chalet or something, they always, it's an American film thing, they always pull over onto sort of a dirt lay-by way quicker than any normal person would. You're coming off the road, coming in hot at like 30 miles an hour in a sports car. You're like, you'd never do that in case there's potholes, I don't know, deep mud, whatever.
Yeah.
Fly tipping, you got to be very careful.
He beaches the Daytona on an abandoned mattress.
And a fridge gets wedged under it. So the front's just hydrofoiling on an old fridge.
Every week, every damn week,
and he has to continue. He has to follow another car with this fridge screeching underneath on the tarmac, with the front on full lock in the air.
He's absolutely frigged the rad by twatting into some bin bags without realising they're full of builder's rubble. Fuck! It was just regular trash.
No, it's internal stud walls that have been hammered in. Oh gosh, yeah. So I highly recommend it. Do you know what I'm like? I'm like a film critic from 4 decades ago.
Yes. Check out this hot new show, Miami Vice. Next week, Johnny raves about Tales of the Unexpected. Well, no, that's good. I will check it out. I think it's. I'll be intrigued because I mean, like, we're playing with memory here, as we've established memory is unreliable, but last I looked, the A-Team stands up all right because there's a certain sort of lightness of touch to the script. It's not all po-faced, and Knight Rider is rather dated because it's a bit too serious.
Correct.
But,
and George Peppard was a really accomplished actor as well, and Dirk Benedict was pretty good. So I think because they were good actors, they had a standard at which they would adhere to.
Yeah,
I do like the A-Team, but and Crockett's theme does feature in the first series when they have to go into witness protection. Or what I would say is the pilot episode. Obviously, the first one you see does have, and you might have read this or heard of it anyway. It has "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins, and that's the seminal.
That's in the
scene.
pilot.
That's in the pilot episode. So that's the one.
I was going to ask when that scene crops up.
Yeah, that is the scene when they're about to go to some big drug buying hoedown, and Crockett's driving, and Tubbs is in the passenger seat loading a pump action shotgun. Low down in the footwell, and it's really atmos because the cameras bolted to the faux Ferrari are all in really low down positions. The car's whizzing under the streetlights at night. It's really, and I think that was the scene that properly captured a lot of people's imagination. I remember talking to Mike Brewer, actually, Wheeler Dealer's Mike Brewer, about he said, I remember watching the pilot episode with that song and that scene, and he was like, it was what everybody was talking about. It was for cars, for women, for fashion, for all of it. That was it. The moment.
I'm just going to go and watch that on YouTube when we finish this. I'll just forget. I haven't got time to watch the whole episode.
Phil Collins was following behind in one of those Mexican Gardner Toyota pickups with a full drum kit and a very echoey microphone.
It was all done live.
Yes, it was done. No, actually, the Ferrari was towing it on a very long rope.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I'd have liked that. Would have been fabulous if just at the big drum break, that if he just pulled alongside on the back of a pickup.
What, and did the big breakdown, and then they all looked over their shoulder and went, piss off, Phil.
Yeah, Phil, shut up, we're on a stakeout, you prick.
And then they realise that there's a massive T-junction, and the driver of the pickup truck hasn't quite clocked it. So does the sort of drives as the crow flies
off the road,
or over all the ornamental gardens.
Into one of those laybys, and then he just absolutely smashes it into two abandoned kitchen units.
You just see Phil bouncing in a load of Zildjian cymbals just in the air.
Yes, ends up in an abandoned bathtub with a load of cymbals on top of it.
You know, I realised I completely, when we were talking about my trip to the Netherlands the other week,
yes,
I actually forgot the sort of key car component of what I wanted to talk about. I know I talked about the Canter, but it was actually about the police cars in Amsterdam. Oh. One thing that I went to a couple of museums with the kids, and the one museum we went into, Emmanuel Macron was turning up in about an hour's time. So we kind of got ushered out early, and there were I noticed there was loads of security. I was thinking, this can't be normal. And police in cars outside each entrance with the engine still running. And this was a first-gen, a lot of older police cars I noticed, but first-gen VW Touareg.
Oh.
Right. Okay, but, and this wasn't the first police car I'd noted while we were staying in the city, it had hubcaps on, but it had hubcaps, completely solid hubcaps, but what made it interesting is it had either a sticker of the original alloy wheel stuck over the wheel cover.
What?
So it looked like a VW alloy wheel, a regular VW alloy wheel, and then when you walk up to it, you realise it's a solid disc covering the wheel. And I said to the kids,
I don't understand.
Well, no, I wanted to take a picture of it, but I didn't want the police to have a word with me. So I tapped on the window of the police car and politely said, could I just ask you about why the wheel covers with the picture of the alloy wheels on? And the chap turned to his colleague and said something in Dutch, and then came back and he said, "Oh, it's we have this because in case people putting the things through the spokes of the wheels, and so he said that's just it's just how we do it in the Netherlands.
What? But this implies that we didn't want them putting things through the spokes of the wheel, but we still wanted to look pretty stylish.
That's the thing. So that's what I was like. So they've gone to the effort of either painting it on or having a vinyl graphic made of the alloy wheel to put. Oh, I've actually got photos of it. I will give it to Patreons. I'll put it on the Patreon page, and it's just really, because I said, can I take a photo? He went, yeah, have a look, and I was like tapping it, and they were really friendly as the Dutch are.
I'm really impressed that you did this. I would have been too cowardly to go and engage
my daughter
police officers.
My daughter was furious with me.
Was their eye rolling?
Yeah, she was like, I can't believe you went and talked to the police. I said, darling, I'm being polite. If you ask, if you want to find out information, you just ask. That's what we do.
Hang on, isn't polite the Dutch word for police? Or politi? I don't know how it's pronounced. Apologies to Dutch listeners.
I think it probably is, yeah. But they were really good.
It definitely looks like polite.
Yeah. But they have a strange taste in police cars, considering it's Amsterdam, I think.
Old for a police car, isn't it? I don't know what the rules are now in the UK, but are they still flipping them at 3 years or 5 years now? I can't remember. But
the Force hasn't got much money.
They're just scrapping them. Yeah, probably 5 years now. But even so, a first-gen Touareg, that's an early 2000s car, isn't it?
I think mid. Yeah.
Still quite old.
It is quite old. But maybe they just look after them better, or maybe they armour them more. I don't know. They might go to more effort to armour them so they have a longer shelf life.
Well, they've had those wheels specially made, presumably, so...
Yeah, they weren't plastic wheel covers. I think they were metal hubcaps.
Oh. I wonder if there's some kind of puncture proofing involved as well.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But it caught my eye, and I thought, as a piece of boring car trivia for you, possibly, for a future book.
No, it's brilliant. I'm really impressed that you actually just didn't go, oh, that's weird, and then walk off.
I tried to be a journalist about it, yeah.
Yeah, journalist. Investigate the vehicle a little closer.
Now, I wanted to jump straight onto, I can't remember whether we ever talked about, or whether we just WhatsApp one another late at night about the Great British Bodge-Off, with Paul Hollywood doing body repairs.
We were talking about this...
where were we?
At the Scramble, weren't we?
Oh, that's what it was.
Of that. We saw that Mitsuoka Vute.
Oh, yes, that's it.
That had sustained some... we had got some very odd rust spots.
Well, I'm going to say that someone performed some bare metal body repairs in a leisure centre steam room. So that there was definitely moisture trapped between the layers of either primer, paint, filler, and then a couple of years later it just starts to bow out. It's breathing. The bodywork's actually breathing. And I was looking at it going, that is not right.
What are you doing there? Well, I do bodywork repairs on cars. I also grow orchids, so it's a good use of the space.
Yeah, and they do hot yoga next door. So it doesn't always work.
That was a shocking state of things. But yes, what was it? So you suggested that,
well, because I said
British Bodge-Off.
Well, I said it looked like someone had done panel repairs with like cake or icing or some sort of edible food stuff. And then we started going off on that stupid tangent of the Great British Bodge-Off, so Paul Hollywood doing edible body repairs, and it turns into a massive competition. So you go, right, what have you got? Okay, so I got a Jag XF, the rear arch has been clipped on a fence, but I need it to look perfect. It's metallic black. So I'm going to go with marzipan. I'm going to use squid ink to colour it.
Ooh.
Yeah, you see? And then it all becomes and you have to work out how realistic it is, whether it tastes any good. And Paul always does his little demonstration at the beginning.
Yeah. So
Paul goes, unfortunately someone, a Just Eat cyclist went into the front of my Aston this week. So I'm going to it's taken a chunk out of the door, so I'm going to do this with, and I don't know how to. I'm going to use a couple of
sourdough.
Yeah, sourdough mix.
Ooh.
I'm going to do a sourdough door skin mix, and
Then he drives it outside and is immediately attacked by crows.
That's right.
Thus revealing his deception. I'd like it if he had a Rover 75 that's just been scuffed by a bin lorry.
Oh.
And he redoes the chrome strip up the body side using an icing bag.
Oh, yes.
Just piping it
It pipes the side trim on. That's a great idea. Yeah. Or even a damaged rear light cluster. You could probably pipe in a new version of that or something like that. That's a good idea.
What if he created a mould in the right shape and then used jelly for a rear light cluster?
Oh, yeah. Or, so like, is it like where they sugar, they create the crystallised sugar, don't they? It's like translucent. What do they do?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember what it is. It is sugar, isn't it? Yeah,
I think
they
so,
blowtorch.
yes, they make sort of they
blowtorch a bit of sugar and all that.
What's it, creme brulee, isn't it, as well?
That's right. So
a bit of blowtorching sugar.
They could create some edible light clusters. Exactly. Perfect. That's it.
There is sort of a show like this, isn't there? Because is it called Is It Cake?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah, and it's trying to make things
my
as realistic.
daughter loves. Yeah. And it's like I'll be honest, I've never seen a whole episode of that. I just see bits and pieces when my daughter's been watching it, and I think it's, is this a Nike trainer or is it cake? And then I think
it's a show that's been invented for TikTokers, really. Because they cut them down into shorts, so you see this thing on a cake table spinning around. They go, "Is it real or is it edible?" And then they cut a.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, my daughter's 5 and she absolutely loves it. And I don't know whether it's just because she likes cake, but I think the premise of the show is sort of pleasantly simple and amusing. Yeah, and it's also a delight to see when someone's made something, really fantastic. Like, is this the Jules Rimet trophy? No, it's cake, and you go, "Wow, how have they done that?" So it's, but yeah, I don't exactly know the finer points of the format.
Well, Paul, if you want to do edible body repairs, Great British Bodge Off, let us know. You can email us hello@smithandsniff.com. It's easy.
You're true.
Yeah, or you can just DM me, Paul. Yeah.
No. I wanted to talk about a car which is for sale on our lovely sponsors, carandclassic.com. And but by the time this goes out, the auction will have ended, sadly. Because it ends on Sunday and this will go live on Monday.
Is this what I think it is?
Yes, it's
gosh.
that. It's a 1974 Rover 3500S Estora, a.k.a. the Sextora. In light yellow. Perfect period colour.
Oh, you see,
and I naively sent this to you.
Yeah.
A few days ago, and as if I thought you hadn't already seen it.
Yeah.
The colour, by the way, I notice is almond,
and it's a great colour for a Rover P6 with the dark vinyl roof. It just looks so good.
The vinyl roof is of course lovely period touch, and then a light, I guess it's cream leather interior.
It's an exceptional car. And listeners, we have talked about these cars before because I have a mild fetish for a coach-built estate car / shooting brake type of thing, and that's what this is. There's a Rover P6 handcrafted estate car. One of 150 maybe made, and they were exceptionally expensive. They were like 2.5 times more than the regular saloon, so ridiculous. And this is the one. So it's the V8 manual. And this hasn't been restored. And bearing in mind, they weren't brilliantly made, I don't think, in period. This could be a bit of a survivor. And it's a cool colour, like Richard said. And so it's just this tick box of this is the right car. And I really, really would like to buy it, but it's really not the right time for me. So I'm trying to work out a way to do this without selling pictures of my ding-a-ling on the dark web. So...
Well, you flatter yourself, Mr. Smith, because at the moment, as we speak, we're recording this on Friday, the auction is currently at £4,800 with 5 bids in, but it has 2 and a bit days to run. So, and you said to me that this is one of those cars that's going to go either... massive because
It's either going to go
such
20
a niche rarity.
Yeah, it's either going to be 20, 25, or it's going to be like 7.
Yeah,
and I don't think there's going to be a lot in between. Which is
there is this fear that it'll just sort of dribble to 5,250 or something, and that feels like somebody's got a bargain.
Oh,
but
yeah, 100%.
This, going back to what we were talking about last week, this really is a case of find another.
Because it is, yeah.
This has got to be a one-off. I've just noticed something about these which I hadn't spotted before. That there's a funny little. Now I can't find the picture I was looking at. Oh, here we go. You can see a bit where they've sort of joined the saloon rear wings to the estate.
Yes.
Loft extension.
Yes.
And there's a funny line that they didn't get rid of. I guess it was just too bothersome to do it, but I'd never spotted that before. It's still a remarkable thing.
Was it because of unboltable wings? Or
yes,
because they're unboltable.
Oh, maybe the back wing.
The rear wings are unboltable on a P6, so they would have to have kept those there for accident damage.
Right, so you'd still just take them off to repair or replace with some lovely whole wheat bread that you've made in your own oven for Paul Hollywood. Wow,
I have to say,
this car is delightful,
and it reminds me of why I love the V8 so much. It didn't even have Rostyle wheels; it had Rostyle style hubcaps. That's how cool it was. And you said the most pillowy of profile tyres in the world. How big are these tyres?
These tyres, there's a lot of pics with this auction, and one of the pictures, close-up of a wheel, huge profile tyres, but even I, having clocked the profile, was staggered at the actual number. They're 80 profile tyres.
Are they 80s?
80.
God, what are they, 14s? Is this a rolling on 14s?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I can't find the picture now, and there are so many pictures that I'll never find it again.
I'm actually scrolling.
I'm going to say there probably are. Are they? They must be 14s.
Oh, here we go.
They may even be 15s.
They're 15s.
Are they? Okay.
No.
And yet,
no, they're not. They're 14s. Sorry, there was some rain on the tyre. 185 80 14s. Amazing.
Oh man! Imagine the ride quality.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I've always had time for these in standard form. You know, we've talked about P6s on this podcast, and me and Richard always have we do have a bit of a thing for some silly British cars. But the thing about the P6 is it's still criminally underrated because of the way it was engineered, the suspension setup, the packaging of that big engine in quite a small body car. Police loved them. They could handle. They could go down side streets. They were spacious, and the fact that this is this kind of coach-built estate, to me, makes me extra excited, and it's the right colour.
It's got the front headrests.
Yes.
It's got the front headrests that make the front seats look like E.T.
They do look like you are sitting or like sort of like lap dancing E.T. as you're driving along. E.T. phone home because I've got a wrong un grinding on me. I love it, and it's the manual. It's the manual. Oh gosh, it's been upgraded, to a 5-speed from an SD1, which is what you want.
That's a pretty standard upgrade for those, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a significant.
I missed that detail.
It's a better box. I know, guys. Listen,
because it has. It looks like it has Ross-style wheels, but they're actually Ross-style wheel trims. You would earn the approval of the Dutch police as well. So
that's true.
Everything going for it.
If I was to drive this, as soon as I bought it to Amsterdam, I'd be pulled over and they would want to have a chat with me because they'd think I was undercover police.
From the 70s.
And I'd say, listen, guys, don't talk to me now. I'm on a job. I'm on a case.
Rather quaintly, some of the blurb in this auction describes it as being registered in Devonshire.
I did see that, and like a complete mug, that excited me because I thought, a West Country car. That would be... See, if I bought that would be my 4th West Country car. So I don't know why that's completely pointless and irrelevant, but I quite like that because of my West Country roots.
It reminds me, I was watching your Z8 video and I realised you were driving round my neck of the woods. That was all in Cheshire.
It was near Alderley Edge. wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was weird. I just went, that looks quite Cheshire-y. And then there was a bit where you're on a road, and I went, I fucking know that road. I know exactly where you are. And then you, lo and behold, you were driving through Alderley Edge. So
did you see did you see the angry Acme rain cloud in the sky that was following us everywhere we went? The weather the weather app was just going, it will rain in the next 30 minutes. And I'm like, we're in this bloody roadster, and I don't want to put the roof up, and we're trying to film it. And it's insured for nearly £250,000. And if you don't know what we're talking about, listeners, it's on my Late Break Show YouTube channel. One of the recent videos is a Z8. I get to drive the BMW Z8 for the first time to try and work out what it's all about 20 years after production ended.
What's it all about?
And it's a real it's a grower, that car. It's a grower. It's like an album, a music album, where you put it on and it doesn't blow you away instantly, but you keep coming back and you keep finding detail. And it keeps warming you over somehow, and you go, oh, okay. And I think that's why. Yeah,
during the course of that video, I was like, I sort of, at the time, I remember thinking, I found the design a bit kind of too retro.
Yeah.
I think we were all getting a bit bored of retro then, because there'd been sort of a boom, New Beetle, Rover 75, Jag S-Type, all that sort of, it was just getting a bit, Ford Thunderbird. It felt like it was going, come on, everyone, let's have some new ideas, not these old ones remixed. And then, but now, looking at that Z8, particularly the interior looks great.
The interior's amazing. And
love how much effort they put into it.
It's so much effort, but it's so much effort for what's not there. It's that restraint. It's that exercise and restraint, which not a lot of car manufacturers are doing now, where it's like, just let stuff breathe. Give it some space. Let's have minimal buttons, really carefully thought through buttons. I mean, all the switchgear in that car is beautiful. The stalks, you've got to have a look at the shape of the indicator stalks. They're so ergonomic, and they are made of aluminium, and they're from no other car. And the amount of money that damn car will have cost, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they could have got away with just going, we'll stick normal BMW stalks in it. They're pretty good quality, but the fact they made the extra effort, it's quite impressive. So, and interesting. I mean, I would say, of course, it was going to rain on you, because there's a saying in parts of Cheshire that if you can see the Pennines, if you can't see the Pennines, hang on, what the fuck?
There's a saying: if there's rain in the air, it's raining. And
if you can see the Pennines, it's going to rain. If you can't see the Pennines, it is raining, and that's pretty much.
Well, that's no good, is it?
How it goes.
I did really enjoy it. I've had a few people say to me, "Why didn't you fully uncork it?" And the reason for that is it's got 10,000 miles on the clock. The roads were damp and a bit naughty, and I really. The owner was staring at me, and although Tony's lovely, it was like I can't rinse this car because it's one of the best examples out there, and they are damn rare. And I was insuring it myself, so you've got to sometimes be careful with these things.
Yes,
haven't you?
And respectful.
Respectful.
Bit of respect.
And as such, he really enjoyed the feature, and he's invited me back. He said you can drive whatever you want when you come back. So I'm now going. Watch the car cave video that I did of his cave, and listeners, have a vote. If you want me to, what do you want me to drive next? I know that's a bit of a YouTuber thing to say, but he has got some. I want to go in the 240Z Samurai or the 3-litre CSL BMW, which is both those cars are absolutely immaculate. So maybe you come back with me, Rich. We'll toss a coin and you take one.
I could show you some other roads to drive down, and as you escape a rain cloud.
Yeah, there we go.
Across the plain.
We can outrun the clouds together. Yes.
I hope you don't mind. I've brought a cestrian with me. You can say, just because you can say the word cestrian. Cestrian is a weird word. Cestrian, you absolute cestrian.
Right. So if anybody, by the time this podcast goes out, I might not have bought a Rover coach built estate car.
I was going to say Sunday evening. Yeah. You've just uncorked a cheeky Shiraz ready for a Miami Vice marathon.
Oh gosh.
And as it courses through your veins, you have a rush of blood to the head, and you slap in a cheeky bid on the Astora.
I will get trolled by Caring Classic, who I think by now know that I like this car because they're just feeding me emails about it.
Yes. Yeah, because your IP address keeps pinging up as looking at it.
Leave me alone.
That Rover, though, did remind me of a chat we had at Goodwood the other weekend that I was going to bring up. because I think I don't know why we were walking around. We looked at something, and I said to you, "Have you ever owned a yellow car?"
Oh yeah,
and you were like, "Yeah, loads." Whereas I never have.
I highly recommend a yellow car because they're jolly. I mean, thunderflies will bombard them.
Yeah,
I think I've owned more than one. I mean, my Enfield electric drag car that was an ochre yellow.
Yeah,
like a dusty yellow, 70s yellow. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I can't even remember all the cars I've owned. Oh, I know, I've had a Ford Taunus, the Taunus GXL Coupe. That was Daytona yellow with a black vinyl roof. That was properly yellow. Oh, very yellow.
But then we were chatting, and I think you boldly claimed that you'd owned cars in every colour, but then we got to purple.
Yeah, I don't know if I've owned a purple car. If I have, it's one of those really dark, like looks black on most British days until the sun comes out kind of purples.
Yeah.
Are you saying that that's my excuse? I now need to buy a purple car so I can say I've owned a car in every colour.
Can I just apologise? Some fuckwit is drilling or doing something. Can you hear that? It's like they're using a very talky drill.
I can't hear it, but is it? It could be my tortoises, Richard.
No, it's definitely my end.
Is it?
I don't know. It might be the guy who sometimes likes to taunt me by waiting until he sees I'm going to the shed to record a podcast and then gets the leaf blower out. He's gone, I'm upping the ante with an incredibly talky drill. One of those ones where the bit is like a foot long.
I know the one.
Drilling through, I don't know, a Second World War bunker or something.
Serious masonry.
Sorry about that. If this is being picked up excessively on the microphone, I do apologise. Yes, no purple cars, because I've never owned a purple car that I can remember. But then you don't get many purple cars, do you?
Not really.
It's sort of...
No,
there's that great colour they used to do on BMW M cars, Techno Violet.
Yes.
That was quite a sort of strong purple, but...
Techno Violet's good.
Yeah,
TVR did a strong Cerberus type colour, which I always liked.
Yes.
Which I think was purple. That's my favourite TVR. I'd love a TVR in purple. Can I have a Cerberus in purple, please?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great.
I don't know. Do you... I sort of... there's... in their day... When I drove TVRs, I drove a T350. I thought was a lovely car, but do I sort of want one? I feel like it's quite low down the list. I don't know. Or a Griffith.
Has to be a Cerberus for me. It has to be a Cerberus because it's the best looking. It's the best looking. It's just...
Oh, hang on though. No, Griffith's a nice looking car.
It's a bit too short-arsed.
See, I don't... Do you know what's funny? I was watching your Z8 video and watching you, determinedly driving around with the roof down because why not? And it gave me a bit of a want-on for a convertible, which led me inexorably to browsing MGTFs just because I was like, how cheaply could you get into? Because I thought MX-5 and I was like, it's a bit predictable and they do rot a bit, not that MGTFs.
I was going to say, I bet you're putting the TF on a pedestal a little bit.
Yes, putting on a pedestal, but a pedestal that's inside a vacuum so that it can never contact outside air. No, I also thought I was like, I bet TFs are cheaper than MX-5s because their reputation precedes them. And this led me to find this 375 quid TF on Auto Trader. God. And I just thought, and I put this on Twitter, what's the worst that could happen? Like, what if it's not total chod? What if actually because it has the whiff of... the MOT's expired, so there could be a lot of trouble. But if you look up its MOT history, it got bad and then it got better again. Now, that suggests maybe that someone had everything fixed pretty much.
Well,
and I just wonder whether it's like 375 quid, private sale. It slightly has the whiff of someone who's gone, I just want that fucking thing off my drive. I can't be bothered to get it sorted. Get rid. And actually, in parts alone, it's worth more.
What I can say is a friend of mine's got one on his front lawn that he did a charity banger rally in, and he drove it back in the end. He drove it back because he liked it too much and used it for 2 summers after that and said it's really delightful. Oh. So it's in his front garden covered in charity stickers, and I would have thought I could probably buy that off you for you quite cheaply. And the secondly is I live near the A1, and on the A1 is the world's largest collection of MGFs for that company that just does MGFs.
Yes, so they've got loads of them.
They've got about 50 of them.
Well, we're back to sort of false memory again, but in my mind's eye, I've driven past that place quite a few times, and I feel like most of the MGFs they have are sort of hulks that are being dismembered to keep other cars alive. Would that be right?
No, they've got nice ones at the front, and then usually at the back they've got the graveyard. But they have a lot of them. I think they're cornering the market for MGTFs. Go for it. I mean, look. It's cheap.
I don't need another car.
It's cheaper than a Rover 6 Tourer. Trust me.
Yeah.
Much cheaper.
Well, that's it. I mean, it is. I just thought it is that. Just in a moment, just a moment, having watched you driving around in a convertible and gone, I haven't driven a convertible for ages. And I was like, what? Summer's coming. Well, this is a bad time to buy a convertible because summer's coming.
It is, really. It is. But when I went out in
convertible for summer that's just you don't care about, that you could just have a little bit of summer fun and then decide what to do with it as the weather closed in for autumn.
When I went out in the convertible Alfa Romeo with Gordon Murray, we both had that conversation about him saying, I'd never used to really like convertibles. I didn't really used to want one. And as I've got older, I've appreciated them more, and I've started to use them. And I feel like, in the right sense, well, wait. I mean, why don't you buy my parents' Golf Cabrio? Buy Bob and Sue's Golf Cabrio.
Yeah, I feel like I want something lower slung.
Do you want a low? Do you know what I tell you what I would get a Z3.
Oh, really?
I know we've been talking about Z8s with the Z3. I don't like the look of it, but I think as a drivetrain, as an engineered car that probably gives you it's cheap.
What, a 6? Not a 4.
I think it would ideally be a 6.
Yeah, you have to go up to the 2. I think there was a 2.5 in those at some point and a 2.8.
I'd buy one of those, but because I like ghetto Boxsters and etc. I would like one with quite bad panel damage on one side, so it just looks like you've had a real misdemeanor, and you have to constantly apologise to people wherever you park it. So that's.
It's weird that I would go MGF or TF over Z3, but
I think that's
very something wrong with.
I think you're a bit ill there. Yeah.
Well, what about SLK? But then there's just the spectre of a jamming roof mechanism haunts me a little bit.
Yes, it could act as an air brake on a Gordon Murray T50 or a Bugatti Veyron. Yes. You've almost got on the motorway.
David Coverdale's shirts from the 80s.
Exactly, the parachute silk shirt. It wedges halfway in the act, as it were.
Yeah,
and then acts as a windbreak.
I reckon, if you want a bit of summer convertible fun, but you insist it has to be deceased spec, I have this unfounded feeling that SLK would be the most fertile ground there.
Yes. Compressor too.
Or indeed just finding absolutely immaculate ones that have done very low miles. I somehow feel that the SLK has a little whiff of the retiree about it more than the TF or the Z3 or the MX-5.
It's one of those cars that you could go and look at 3 today. The radio would be set on Classic FM on all of them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And they'd all be full service history cars. Even when they got down to about 700 quid, they're still doing main dealer history.
Yes, they're still going to the main dealer, garaged, and it's the last service cost £4,000, and they just went,
oh, that seems a little steep. Okay, then
£1,700.
I would buy one. I would have an SLK. I would.
It's funny because I kind of. Why? Because I remember that compressor engine's not very nice, and they're not really very sporty. But actually, I'd have one over a Z3. The Z3 is very low down my list for some reason.
I'd like one in the sort of pissy green colour of the Z3. So I quite like the algal. Is it slightly algal, or is it late 80s tracksuit?
No, the official BMW name was Pissgrün. Was how they sold
pissy green.
Vasgrüner. Before we start live searching for deceased spec SLKs, we should probably bring this into land.
We never even talked about Bicester. We never talked about Bicester Heritage again.
We didn't, did we? Well, it was brilliant. The best one I've been to so far. But it's not really useful to say that because it's in the past to go. But the next one, I don't know when the next one is, but I would hardly recommend the Sunday Scramble at Bicester. It's great.
There's a couple of take homes that I'll rattle through. One, Dario Franchetti was there again, who I know he listens to this podcast, and I know he's a fan.
Yes.
But every time we're at the same event, we never meet up, and I think he's avoiding us.
No.
I think he likes the podcast, but he doesn't want to be seen in public with us. So,
I mean, I think he's got the right attitude. This is the race winner's attitude. He's gone, I like the podcast, but I don't want to meet them in person. I think that would be awful.
Quite okay. So I've got type, but he turned up in his Singer 911, I think.
Did he?
Yeah, which was gorgeous. Thank you to the little car company who allowed me and my son to pretty much do an auto test in a baby Bugatti.
Shit. Yeah, we haven't talked about that and how you beat an actual heroic racing driver because you were hangry.
I didn't want to draw attention to the small accolade. That was a bit of a shock. And Andy Wallace, if listeners know who Andy Wallace is, who is a lovely guy.
He's a lovely man, but he's also an absolute hero.
He is,
and he's done some incredible things in cars. And then you pasted him in a tiny. What was it? A Bugatti?
It was a baby Bugatti, electric Bugatti. Yeah. Well, I wasn't intentional. I don't know. I wasn't intending to win, but I was exceptionally.
What kind of attitude is that?
Well, I'm not that competitive. That's the weird thing. That's why I'm not.
Well, maybe that's the secret of your success. A, not bothered. B, furiously hungry.
I was so hungry.
Just want to get it over with.
I was so hungry. I decided to skip lunch and have it after the event, but I wasn't entirely sure how long the event would go on for. I misjudged it.
Yeah.
I managed to find a couple of miniature pastries to keep me going, but it wasn't enough. 2 coffees in, I was jittery. I just wanted to get behind the wheel and just go for it. And I did. I just went for it. So, but thanks ever so much. It was a really, really enjoyable event. And thanks to everyone that came up to us and said, we listened to the podcast. They were quoting things that I couldn't even remember saying. And they may or may not have had a sticker in their vehicle window.
Yeah. No, we met some lovely people from all over this. Did you met the chap who'd come over from Ireland?
I did.
In a Peugeot press car that he was sleeping in.
Yes, I did. Yeah. And he basically drove all night to get there in a non-Roy Orbison way.
Yeah. He drove all night, slept in the boot,
slept in the Peugeot because I got
genuinely
locked out.
did.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, thank you to everyone we met at the Scramble. That was excellent, and hopefully we will see some people the 19th of May at the Tobacco Factory in Bristol. Tickets, we think, are still on sale, unless there's been a run on them between now and when this goes live.
I'm not saying any more than that, but keep tabs on our social media and on the website for other dates. There are going to be a couple more dates for On That Live of things coming up imminently on that side of things.
June and July, there should be stuff going on. We'll tell you more when we can. But for now, let's bring this to a close with 3 things that I have to tell you. And they are: 1, Johnny has a solo YouTube channel. It's called The Locate Paste Show, in which Johnny has just 30 seconds to find a tube of Colgate in an unfamiliar supermarket. Now, this week, he's in a Sainsbury's near Reading shouting, "Hurry, my breath stinks," about the shelf stacker. If that's not to your taste, because it's made up, there's also The Late Break Show, which has got lots of excellent videos about cars and people who love them, including a review of the BMW Z8, 20 years on.
Is it still misunderstood? And is it worth...
Yes.
And the one I drove was ex-Michael Flatley from New.
I know, that's an that list of celebrity owners is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. And you remember the age-old Colin McRae quote, "If in doubt, flatly out," which is where he was...
Is that how he leaves events?
Yes, he whilst...
He's had enough of a party.
He just opened the door and just kicked Michael out. And, But you can imagine, imagine the pedal box on those, the Z8s. Because clearly Flatley likes a 3-pedal car because he doesn't want...
Well, he's got
busy legs.
Feet, hasn't he? So busy legs. So second thing I've got to tell you is, well, I'll do it again. We're doing a live show on the 19th of May in Bristol. We are. I might have mentioned it a couple of times, but smithandsniff.com/live-shows is how you might access the tickets, or search on Eventbrite. That's where we sell them. Please come along. And if you want to drop us a note about anything, hello@smithandsniff.com. And the third thing that I've got to tell you is that you familiar with the Rolling Stones song "Gimme Shelter"?
I am.
And one of the things that makes that song stand out is the incredible backing vocals. I mean, they're not even really backing vocals, they're kind of singing. It's a sort of joint lead vocal in many places, done by Mary Clayton. But the amazing thing about that is that the Stones were in the studio in the middle of the night, and the producer, I think, realised they needed an extra vocal on it, rang Mary Clayton at home in the middle of the night. She was heavily pregnant and in bed, but she was persuaded to go down to the studio, and she did that vocal in 2 takes while wearing her pyjamas.
I had heard this. That's maybe the first piece of trivia you've given me that I had heard of.
But you actually know, damn it!
Because I watched a documentary about it, and it's stunning.
Yeah.
It's probably the best Rolling Stones song ever, but it's just...
Is that, in that documentary, do they do the isolated vocal?
They do, and it's spine-chilling.
Oh, my God. She tells that story that she did 1 take singing alongside Mick Jagger, and then they said, do you want to do another one? She's like, so she thought to herself, I'm going to really blow their minds.
Yeah.
And like her voice kind of actually cracks a little bit, but it all sort of adds to it. It's proper shivers down the spine stuff. Brilliant. I'll put a link in the show notes that go on the Patreon.
What would you be driving listening to that? Go on then, quick one before we end.
Oh.
What car? You got that playing, and what are you in?
For some reason, I'm in a Peugeot 504 Cabrio.
What? Okay.
I don't know why, I just am. They're great. All right, well, that's enough of this, but we'll do it all again next week. Until then, thank you ever so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye now. Cheers, bye.
You know just what to do. Like and subscribe and review. You know just what to do. Like and subscribe and review. You know just what to do. Like and subscribe and review.
This is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which 2 friends talk about cars and many other things.
Talk about, I don't know where we are on the carsometer this week. We might have been too carry. We'll get complaints again.
Oh, will we? Do you want me to quickly say
podcast,
some euphemisms and then you can just slot them in?
Just start doing euphemisms for testicles and we'll just drop that in at some point.
Yeah, absolute
Plums.
egg bag. Yeah. Right, do you want me to stop this?
Clacker hammock.